Okay, so this is Sfirat Omer. This is Malchut of Malchut. This is it, guys. Last one, 49. So after 48 long days of hard work, we finally concluding the journey of the Sphira of Malchut. So this moment marks the end of this effort and is our reminder to continue applying the messages we have learned throughout the month and a half. So let us remember to use this time to focus on what we are doing and strive to apply it to our daily lives. It is ultimately through this process of refinement that we can make a conscious effort to become better versions of ourselves, both physically and spiritually. So let's see what's hidden in the sphere of Malchut. So we are aware that there is a mitzvah in the Torah that we have to appoint a king to us. So now comes a question. What does the Torah seem to repeat the commandment to appoint yourself a king? The Hebrew words som and tasim. So som tasim alecha melech. So the words som and tasim are from the same root. Yet they are repeated in this mitzvah. So according to the Zohar, when it comes to the mitzvah of appointing yourself a king, som represents a ruling power from the heavens, and tasim refers to our own earthly rulers. So this duality of kingship highlights an important lesson, that we must strive to align ourselves with the divine will in order to reach our full potential in this world. So it also reminds us that we must seek our guidance and support both from above and below in order to make wise decisions in life. So first you have to appoint the ultimate king, the master of the universe, and then you can appoint yourself a king in this world. So very soon we will appoint ourselves a Messiah. It will be a human being. People think the Messiah is a concept or an era, which is true, but he is also a physical king. We will have a man of flesh and blood who will be our king. Sometimes in our history, people wanted a physical king instead of following Hashem. So this was wrong. It should be the other way around. First, worship Hashem as king, and then appoint a regular king after that. So why do we need two kings, a spiritual and a physical one? What is the point of having a Messiah? The idea is that the Melech Elyon, the supreme king, should come down and get dressed into the physical king. This is the idea that Hashem, the higher king, will be dressed in the lower king, a human, and this human will be completely annulled to Hashem, the Melech Elyon. And where do you see the perfect example for that? Moshe Rabbeinu was a king of the nation, yet humble enough to be a teacher. According to our sages, Hashem would dress in him would dress in him, and the voice that came out of his mouth was not his own. It was the Shekhinah, the feminine aspect of the divine. This was as if Hashem had completely entrusted Moshe's throat to be his vessel for speaking the words of Torah. This week, we have been discussing the concept of Malchut and the concept of Malchut Metukenet, which is a kind of refined and rectified leadership or kingship. It is interesting to note that Shavuot, the holiday best known for commemorating the giving of the Torah, is also associated with King David. It marks both his birthday and the day he died. The journey through Sfirat Omer is not an easy one, but you did it. You should take a moment to appreciate all that you have achieved in the progress you have made. So reflect on where you were when you started and how it compares to now. Have your outlook or goals changed in any way? What have you learned about yourself as a result of this experience? Acknowledge the hard work that it took to reach this milestone, and then use this knowledge to propel yourself further. Accepting the leadership of Malchut Shemayim is essential to our growth as individuals. So after accounting for 49 days, we can summarize our journey to one of personal refinement and character development. The highest form of this work is Midat Ha'anava, humility, the quality of humility. To explain further, when looking at the hierarchy of midot, or character traits, if you want to refine your midot, then you need to understand both the good and the bad midot. The highest of all is midot, is the midat ha'anava, the attributes and characteristics of humility. And pride is the worst character trait of all. So when one's ego is hurt and their pride is hurt, two midot are birthed, sadness and anger. So this means that when somebody is angry, something has happened to their pride. Similarly, when they fall into sadness and depression, it can be traced back to their ego being hurt. As these two midot become activated, they can lead to further negative emotions such as hate, resentment, or jealousy. So the highest level of midot, or character traits, is midat ha'anava. And the ultimate example of this is Moshe Rabbeinu. He was able to humble himself before Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, showing us that even in our greatness, we are nothing compared to the Almighty. So aspiring to emulate his example can help us to reach a higher level of character growth. Our leaders in the past have taught us the importance of humility before Hashem. So Moshe Rabbeinu expressed that we are nothing compared to Hashem. Avraham Avinu said he was like dust and sand, and David HaMelech compared himself to a worm. These examples show us that True greatness lies in recognizing our own insignificance. So reaching the ultimate level of Malchut requires accepting a physical king and the coming of the Messiah, and humbling oneself before Hashem. To do this, it is important to ask ourselves constantly if we are truly accepting Hashem as the one true force in reality. We can go through outward motions such as wearing nice clothes and covering our hair, but true devotion requires going beyond those actions to really honor Hashem. So unfortunately, idolatry still exists today. People continue to worship items, even if it is not done in the same way as before. So instead of bowing down to particular individuals or objects, people may worship money, fame, technology such as Facebook. This form of idolatry still persists in our world today. Even when you fall into anger, it's idolatry. So our sages say that if you have anger, it's like you do idol worship. So why? Because when we get angry about what another person has said or done, we don't believe that this situation is coming from Hashem. We think the person is responsible for our distress, not Hashem. So this is idolatry. This person is only the messenger, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has orchestrated the events. We must crown Hashem as our king every day. This is the Malchut of Malchut, because Malchut reflects humility. So what do you do when in the presence of a king? You bow down, yet it does not make you any less of who you are. Even Moshe Rabbeinu understood how to humble himself. So Malchut of Malchut is shaflut, humility, which means being humble and very low. So not that you're making yourself a shamata, but you recognize that there is something greater than you. This can be achieved by reaching the ultimate self-control, which only comes with humbleness. So most people think they have control over their emotions, but it only takes one wrong word to spark a storm of emotions. To achieve true self-control over your thoughts and emotions and behavior, humility is the key. So Malchut is the path to achieving this ultimate goal. Now, what do we really want in our life? So if you go out to the streets and start interviewing people, what do they want in their lives? It's not just about money. Most people are looking for peace. They want to live peacefully with their neighbors, family, and themselves. All they want is peace. The entire Torah is about peace. Is about peace. That's what we want at the end of the day. We have numerous reminders of this in our daily lives. Shemona Esrei, Birkat Kohanim, Kaddish, and more. The path to understanding the Torah leads us towards peace. So peace with one another, peace with our families, and peace in our business dealings are all part of what makes us human and part of our journey on the right path. Many people meditate for long hours to have a sense of peace, but the effect is often short-lived. Even if they hum on the floor for 10 hours a day, the peace can only last a few hours before needing another session. So various forms of meditation exist, and it's important to be mindful of where one draws their energy from, as it can lead to quick increases in peacefulness that won't necessarily last. So how can you get to a place of total peace? When the Malchut, Hashem, or kingship of Hashem, resides within each of us. When Hashem is with us and we have opened our hearts to Him, we experience peace like never before. We are no longer upset and our worries and anxieties disappear. We gain control over our lives. This only comes when we humble ourselves and make peace for Hashem in our hearts. So Hashem cannot dwell anywhere when there is an ego. So the ga'ava, the pride, moves away from Hashem when the ego is present. So ego and Hashem cannot coexist together. This is how we get to the place said in Birkat Kohanim, quote, and He will place into you peace. In order to make space for Hashem, one must rid themselves of ego. To bring Hashem into my life, I have to practically make space for Him. This starts by making my home kosher, removing something that is not allowed, and ensuring that everything I see, watch, learn, and hear supports this effort. So doing this will help me keep my mind free of anything that would remove Hashem's presence from me. So my goal is to make peace for Hashem everywhere He desires to dwell, and thus bring Him closer into my life. So want to make room for Hashem in your life? It's simple. Just do two things to make space for the divine. One must strive to embody Kedusha, holiness, and Ratzon, Hashem, the will of God. So by committing oneself to these two principles, we can create a special type of sacredness that welcomes Hashem's presence. You know where there's no Kedusha, no holiness? Don't go there. Take yourself to a place of unholiness and uncleanliness will lead you to Lashon Hara in any conversation, or like gossiping and stuff like that. So don't take away the Kedusha. Don't listen to what is said. It will only hurt you in the end. So this is just one example among many that exist. So you're sitting with a group of people who lie, cheat, slander, mock, and make fun. This is not the atmosphere you want to be in. There's no holiness there. So the first step to have the presence of God is to find holiness. That means it's important to consider what we eat, hear, listen to, and watch carefully. Everything has an impact on our own sense of holiness. So trying to comprehend and follow the will of Hashem is essential to living a life that is meaningful. We are called to do our best to discern his desires for us, in the same way that we would ask our own kids or those we care about to listen to us. Ratzon Hashem, so the will of Hashem, involves honoring his wishes and doing his will in all of our actions. This is how we demonstrate our love and reverence for him, as well as how we strive to live with purpose. So you make space for Hashem by bringing holiness, Kedusha, into your life. When you humble yourself in front of the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you receive the ultimate blessing. What the priest says, V'yasim lecha shalom. Okay, so this is how you win and gain peace. This is what we have been striving for during the 49 days of refinement. So we can gain ultimate blessing of Kadosh Baruch Hu, peace. The Torah was given into the world only to create peace. It wasn't meant to cause arguments, even if it may seem that way. So after 45 days of contemplation, we come to the realization that one can only achieve peace by embodying Hashem and doing his will with Kedusha. It is to know when to keep quiet, when to look away, when to close one's ears, when to step back and say, okay, I will give this time. I will surrender. I will move on. It is not about me. It is not about what I acquire. It is not about what I gain. When you follow all these instructions, you are ultimately fulfilling Hashem's will. So if you don't know what Hashem wants, then that's why you need to start learning Torah. So even if you learn Torah for 50 years, there's no guarantee that you'll understand Hashem's desires. He puts his desires in the Torah. Don't steal, even from animals, and don't commit adultery, lie, cheat, or slander. So this is the will of Kadosh Baruch Hu. If he were to think that it is good for us to kill, he would say to kill. If Hashem were to think that it is good for us to fight, he would say fight. Thus the Torah tells us everything. This is the will of Kadosh Baruch Hu. So when we follow this and reach the deepest part of our being, we become a vessel for the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is Malchut of Malchut. If he were to think that it is good for us to kill, he would say to kill. Again, this is actually a repetition. It's in smaller letters, so it looks like this is just a repetition of this paragraph. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good Shavuot.